They also don't have it here.
Yeah, so the scoring pylon in Texas became a pickleball court, right?
Did it?
I think that's where the pickleball court got installed.
Oh.
Yeah. So it drove me nuts because in the race, A, you count laps, right? So you're looking at laps, but B, it's a really good indicator of like where the field is at, who you're racing against, who's coming and going. I tend to look at the scoreboard, the scoring pylon a lot, and the way that the scoreboard is with the back straightaway, big hoss, it's almost impossible to kind of navigate until you get on the back straightaway, and even then, like looking that way on the back straightaway is not ideal, right? Because it's like up above you. So I'm hopeful that that's not a thing. Like, I hope we go back to scoring pylons, but maybe we're not going to. I don't know. Indianapolis, I feel like if they can update and stay with a scoring pylon and have the history that they've had, I feel like we should maybe follow suit.
So I guess it's safe to say you're not a fan of it.
I am not a fan of no scoring pylon.
no scoring pylon is, yeah. From a strategy standpoint, for you in the car, you're kind of explaining it a little bit, but how does that benefit for you at a race like Talladega, where maybe you're looking for like drafting partners? Like, is it really that helpful for things like that?
At a place like this, it's probably more in line with where the race is at, right? So I think especially if you get strung out and you get small packs of cars on a green flag run, it's more important. Or sometimes maybe when you're coming towards the end of a stage, you're looking at, okay, who's in the top 10, who am I racing against for stage points, and really, I mean, probably the biggest answer is what lap are we on, right? Like, I feel like for us, we do so much prep work in the beginning of the week of what our pit strategies are going to be and kind of your different plans depending on how the race goes, and so I have a pretty good understanding of where I'm at lap wise compared to where what we're going to do for strategy. So it can mess with you a little bit. I would say last week at Texas it was just kind of more annoying that you couldn't see it, but it didn't really affect me at all. But I would, like I said, I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is. I'm not the one that gets to make those opportunities.
What's the difference of scoring pylon at like a Texas or a Talladega versus like a short track like Bristol? Because obviously you're going around there and you don't have half a second before you're going to the next turn already. Well,
so Bristol took them off the grandstand. It's off the suites. And it drove me nuts when they first did that, because I was obviously looking at those a lot too. Listen, as racers, you're going to use every tool that you're given, right? Whether that's a scoring pylon, a jumbotron, a big hoss, or whatever it is. Like, I'm always looking at that kind of stuff. I'm even looking at like when there's TV monitors on like pit road or behind pit road or on the back straightaway for the fans. You're still looking at those. You're constantly seeing what others are facing. You're seeing what your car looks like. I'm looking at the attitude of my car on the TV to see if I need to make an adjustment to my driving or to the balance of the car. So you're using those tools to your resources and your resources to your advantage. And if you're not, you're just giving up that resource, right? When they're not there, you obviously have to do other things and have more information being fed to you. But sometimes it's nice to have to take one thing out of the equation for a spotter or for a crew chief to have to tell the driver, right? I think with the Cup car and you've got lap times, that was a huge help to the Cup guys, because now that's not somebody clogging up the radio telling them a lap time every lap. Just little things like that where I think it takes one thing off the radio and it helps everybody. And I think it helps the fans too. As a fan, when you come to the racetrack and you're watching the race, sometimes it's not always clear as to who's doing what, right? And I think that here at Talladega, ideally if you're all in a pack and you're 3 wide, 10 deep, it really doesn't matter. But at a place like Texas, where strategies were playing out and people were pitting under green and not pitting under green, as a fan, you could sit at the grandstand and say, okay, well, the 21 is leading, but he hasn't pitted yet, right? So just little details like that I think it kind of adds to the whole experience for me. And I think too, let's just be honest, I love the history of our sport, and bulbs being burnt out on a scoring pylon still to this day, like I still enjoy that. You know what I mean? I'm weird like that. No different than you go to some baseball diamonds and they still have the manual displays where somebody changes it. I think that's cool. I think it's an ode to the history of our sport, and really enjoy that part of it.
Speaking of history, you tied Kyle Busch for most Xfinity top 10s last week. I looked at you're at start 446. There's only a handful of people that made 500 starts in this series. So what would it mean for you to, reach a milestone like that if you were able to?
500 minus 446 is still a lot of starts.
Yeah.
It is a really cool opportunity. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that there would be any chance of tying Kyle Busch on a stat like that. I mean, that's really, really cool. If you look at top 5 stat, obviously, that not as cool. I'm significantly further behind Kyle, but I look back at kind of where Kyle started and where I started in what the Xfinity series looked like back then, and the Cup drivers that ran every week, and I think it makes it that much more gratifying to get that stat. I mean, it's been a pretty wild ride, and I don't picture myself as being old by any stretch, but at the same time, to run as many races as I had, to have that many top 5s and top 10s, no matter if you tie Kyle Busch or not, it's still really, really cool. And Kyle's obviously generational talent and somebody that I've respected as a race car driver more than most. I think what he does behind the wheel of a race car is truly incredible, and there's only a handful of guys that have been in my generation that I've raced against that I feel like can kind of live in that category, and he's one of them. So to tie him on anything is really cool.
All right, thank you, Justin.
This is Austin Dillon, driver of the Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also check out one of those 2 videos beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.